Hey, everybody, welcome to Each on the News again. We've got Alain Cormier. He's the Novipro's CEO, and they're a solution provider, managed service provider as well. And they're doing some amazing things. And they actually did a recent report, some IT trends, and we're going to dig into that as well. And before we get started, let's welcome Alain. Welcome. How are you?
Hey, pretty good, and you?
Very, very good. So give us a bit of a background, Alain. Tell me a bit about the company and what exactly you guys do up there.
Well, the company's been created 30 years ago, a little bit more than 30 years ago, and we're a solution provider, solution integrator, but we also added a managed services arm into our portfolio. So we're full-fledged with our client where we can provide consulting services as far as which technology customers should look into it. We can provide integration services, including the resale of the solution. And at the end, we can mostly manage every single solution that we are supporting.
So I would assume as well, cybersecurity is also included in that, right?
Right. Lately, in the last few years, cybersecurity has been in the art of most of our discussion with clients, and there's a lot of challenges that customers are facing today.
Mm. And of course, we recently we've been seeing this rise of artificial intelligence. How is that playing into your business model?
It's something we were already looking at, and we started many years ago with the advanced analytics, and we see the trend going into AI. Actually, you were talking about the IT trend report. It's a first this year where AI is number one in the investment in the next 2 years. Previous years, it was cybersecurity. So for the first time, AI is at the top. And actually, I was participating in a conference 2 weeks ago, and it's clear that AI is not only a buzzword, but it's really something that it's there, and companies are counting on AI in future investment to support or to be able to scale. So it's really something that we see. A lot of people will see AI as being there to replace job. I'm saying it's not there to replace job. It's really there to support company to scale and support the demand that the market will ask for.
Yeah, earlier last year we were hoping that AI was just going to be another buzzword, but then in the second half of 2024, whoa, it just became just so real. So tell us a bit about this IT trends report. What's it? Who you talked to? How did you get this together?
So actually, that journey started 10 years ago. So to be able to issue the IT trend, it's about a 12-month work prior to announcing or getting the trend outside. So we started 10 years ago, and when we look at the market 10 years ago, there was no specific Canadian IT report. Most of the reports that were available were North American,
Mm.
and often it was more towards the US and not the Canadian market. And in the roots of Novipro, we wanted to give back to the community as well. So we started 10 years ago having that idea of building a Canadian study where we would see the trends in technology. So we issued our first one. Now this year it's our ninth edition. And the beauty is we can look at the trends year over year on specific subjects. The way it's working in order to be neutral, so the IT trend is sponsored by Novipro, but it's supported by Leger Marketing. So it's not Novipro who's contacting clients, it's really going through Leger. We're not part of looking at the data until it's all compiled. So Leger will communicate with about 450 different companies, different size, different industries, and across the country, so in the 10 provinces. As part of those respondents, 300 are from our decision maker on the IT side, and about 150, 170 that are on the business side. This is something we added the second year, the lines of business, because we thought it was important to understand as technology is supporting business, it's important to understand point of view of the lines of business. So we included both sides, and actually it's giving us the opportunity to validate perception or some of the response we're getting on the IT compared to the business side. Quite interesting. So it is our ninth edition. We're really proud of it. And actually, the 8 previous editions are also available. So if anybody would be interested to look at previous years.
Well, first of all, thank you for doing this because sometimes, people don't care, but it's really great to have data that we can actually count on, particularly when it's independent and it makes a lot of sense to help the entire industry. So let's dig into it. Let's go through the findings. First of all, if you had to pick one finding or something that you were surprised that happened this year than last year, what would that one thing be that jumped out?
Surprise between this year or last year. Actually, I already mentioned AI is number one investment in the next 2 years.
Mhm.
And for the last 3, 4 years, it was cybersecurity. So this is a big one. We didn't know when that would happen. We thought it would happen this year, next year, but actually it was this year. Um,
Okay.
so this is one, but the other one that is I'm looking at it, and I was talking about comparing the lines of business and the IT decision maker is really the looking at how the IT department is perceived. There's about 37% of respondents that see IT department as being a strategic partner to the business. Um, when you look really underneath, so actually it's mostly the IT decision maker that perceive them as strategic partner when the lines of business are perceiving the IT department as a strategic partner only at 14%. And that was surprising because today more and more companies are dependent on technologies
Hmm.
and not having the IT department seen as a strategic partner in the business, it's a huge disconnect. So I was surprised when I
Hmm.
looked at this, but looking at the results is really the fact that AI is top
Hmm.
investment.
Yeah, it actually makes a lot of sense. AI has just been blown up in the second half of last year. It just simply took off. One of the things some companies look at AI, or sorry, not AI, but technology in general, the IT department. That's an expense. How do we keep it low? They don't understand that. Well, technology is obviously strategic, right, to the entire digital transformation of your business. So now that I guess it looks like the IT department is getting more recognition. Let's hope that trend continues because it's quite astonishing that companies would not consider their IT department today in 2025 as not being strategic to their business. What do you think are some of the things that is sort of changing the business outcomes, the way the business line of business folks are seeing IT now?
I think they realize they need technology. It's rarely to see companies that are not dependent somehow to against the technology, and they do understand there's more and more complexity because as you modernize or as you bring new solutions, you still need to integrate with the remaining or the existing solution, and this is often pushed back towards the IT department. So really, this is where we will start building that credibility of the IT department. Um, Again, it's a start. I think the lines of business should bring the IT department at the table when it's time to pick the right technology. So and again, by bringing the IT department at the table, they will see the complexity for integration or if there would be any challenges, but also, and we mentioned it earlier, all the cybersecurity piece. When you're bringing new solutions, there might be more challenges facing the company for security, and you need to take care about that because it's all about protecting the company as well.
Mm-hmm.
So there's an improvement, but I think there's space for more improvement, and is really to consider how to leverage as much as possible the technology to bring return on investment to the company, but also to protect the company with all the cybersecurity threat.
Yeah, I mean, even we talk a lot about the CISO being able to communicate with the C-suite. It used to be, we're not really interested. Now it seems that the CISOs are actually getting a seat at that table because of compliance and regulations. And well, when you get a cyber breach, your company could go bankrupt. So it's very difficult, very costly to recover. Are you seeing that the cybersecurity is now? Did you get any indication maybe from your responders that cybersecurity is now a very critical business topic?
Yeah, it's always been, and again for the last 4 or 5 years, it's always been the one of the most critical um, element out of the IT trend. You mentioned the CISO having a seat. What I see from our clients is more and more clients, mostly large enterprise, tend to have the cybersecurity outside IT now. So they're really getting a seat at the table
Hmm.
and not only looking at cybersecurity on the application side or on the infrastructure, but really being at a table, being consulted in the trend or the investment that will be done in the company. So this is something that we see. On the other end, where we're surprised is companies that are providing training to their employees, but training that they will provide in the next 2 years, where it went down year to year. And as we
Hmm.
know, there's a lot of ransomware or a lot of cyber attack that came from the external, but being open by an employee and reducing that training. I think this is a mistake that companies are making today. As the cyber threats are getting better and better, they're leveraging AI. So we need to stay on the tip of our toes to be ready and to always evolve our cybersecurity investment. And in the IT trend, you see it's well understood, but are they taking the right action? This is where it's a bit unclear, or they're lacking, depending the size of companies and
Hmm.
also location. We see that large organization, they have the budget and they are investing. When you get into the SMB market, it's reducing, and in smaller enterprises, we see that they're lacking and they're becoming late in their investment.
So, Alain, you seeing the trend going down for awareness training?
Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
Eh,
You would think it would be going up because that's the easiest way to prevent an attack, right? I mean, and actually not just the easiest way, but the cheapest way to prevent an attack, right?
It is, and again, we were surprised. And when I had the opportunity to do some roundtables with clients, but with partners as well, and most of people were surprised with that result. But this is what came out of the IT trend
Wow.
report.
Is there a percentage of companies who don't even train their employees? Is there such a thing?
Not that they don't train, but that they don't plan to train in the next 2 years. There's I'm just trying to find the I added. I
I
knew
saw a number here that you said like 28% of
yeah,
companies still don't train their employees.
exactly. Don't train or not planning to train in the next 2 years.
Yikes.
This is a huge numbers.
That is just unforgivable.
Yep.
Honestly, everybody who's in that bucket should go home and think because anyways, I being in the cybersecurity world, it's the low hanging fruit, right? As a matter of fact, honestly, this is this is exactly what the hackers love to hear, that the people are not training their employees. They go home, they celebrate because the with AI, they can get even more sophisticated, right? And they can reach out a lot more people. And therefore, to be able to breach through this method is still quite significant, isn't it?
Yeah. And again, it's one of the top challenges for company at cybersecurity. So I think they are aware, but they're lacking in training. company needs to understand that when you invest in security, it's not a project and then you're done. Because again, technology is evolving, and the cyber attack are leveraging all that new technology. So again, you need to stay there and keep on investing on cybersecurity. And again, as you're bringing new solution or new technologies, you also need to do the assessment on cybersecurity and make the right investment. But training, in my mind, should be top of the list for your end user to be fully trained. And even though, and I'm talking to a lot of clients, even though some clients are providing training, it's getting more and more sophisticated when you're looking at emails that are coming in. People will click on that link or on that document.
If there's a way to agree with you more than 100%, I would. So so I want to talk about the insurance issue. I know people think we all have a lot of insurance in our company, right, in general. And now there's a new insurance called cyber insurance. Not really new, but it's getting more popular. Tell me a bit about what percentage of folks out there actually have or maybe don't have.
So today there's about 27 out of the study. There's 27% of the enterprise who's got an insurance. There's about 20% that are planning to get one soon. So again, soon is it
next 5 years? I don't know.
But again, there's 26% of company that doesn't have an insurance. So a bit surprised with those numbers. I know it's getting harder and harder, and there's more and more question when you subscribe to a cyber insurance. But it's something that companies should invest. And those questions or those elements that insurer are asking, they're not just asking because it's part of a formula. It's really because companies should have these plans in place. Business continuity plan, doing the testing. This is why they're asking. If you subscribe to the insurance, they just want to make sure you put all the right things in place to protect yourself.
There is also something very important that everybody should know about cyber insurance. And that is, if you don't comply to those fine printed information in your policy, and you do get a breach, and you do try to make a claim, you're going to be welcomed by their lawyers.
Exactly.
So they're not necessarily mean because you lied on your application, or whatever. On your application, omitted whatever, or said you did something that you didn't know you didn't or should do, it may actually null and void your claim. It's almost the same as medical. If you get medical insurance and you want to travel to a different country and you don't disclose you have a certain precondition, and then you go there and you have this problem, even though you have insurance, you're not going to be covered, right? Something similar, I think.
And again, you said it earlier, with all those threats, it could bring a company to bankruptcy. So in reality, what they're asking in the cyber insurance questionnaire is really things that you should have in place in order to protect your company. So you should not count on the cyber insurance to protect your company. You should put in place business continuity plan, disaster backup, having all the cybersecurity protection,
monitoring, things like that.
Yeah, but also governance.
Yes,
that security, because again, your plan is just as good as what you've done today. As you're developing let's say, business continuity plan or doing the assessment, well, there's new technology coming in. So you need constant governance on that to make sure you're staying up to date. And something that was not critical might be critical today, and you need to make sure it's protected.
Absolutely. I mean, there's a government regulations and compliance, and then there's an insurance regulation and compliance, and they both has, they're both consequences if you don't follow these things, right? And You need to start reporting. When you get breached, there are certain rules and laws that force you to do this. And on the insurance side, there are certain minimum guidelines. And in a way, these things, I think for the first time, I say I really, really welcome compliance and cyber insurance, because in a way, it tells the companies, the people that run these companies, that there is a minimum requirement in doing business today, because you have your customers and your employees to protect and so on and so forth. So it's no longer an option. It's where I'm getting at. It's like it's fundamental, right? In a business continuity business plan today, isn't it?
Yeah, and again, more and more company, and we're looking at the geopolitics situation that we're seeing these days. But most companies are doing business within Canada, but also outside Canada, and there's different laws that you must follow. So if you work with Europe, well, you get GDPR, but only looking in Canada, Canada is looking to have their privacy law, but province of Quebec
Mhm.
have its own law, and any companies in Canada who's doing business in Quebec, who has clients in Quebec, are subject to that law. And I was surprised as far as there's a lot of companies in the IT trend that were not aware of Bill 25 in
Mhm.
province of Quebec. And I'm sure many of those companies do have clients in Quebec and they are subject to that law. And the Canadian law, it's not a copy, but it's pretty similar to what Quebec developed, which is similar also with GDPR. So today, unless you only do business in your city, you need to be aware, and this is where governance and compliance is really important for companies.
Unless you have a flower shop.
Yeah, but,
Uh,
but, but even that, if you have a flower shop
oh,
in
if you're
Quebec and you've
delivering.
got personal data,
Oh
well,
my, true. Even if you send flowers to a different city, you're in trouble. Look, the one thing that we're hearing a lot of, and I see that your study covered it as well, is AI with guardrails. And you have your employees. Here is this beautiful AI thing, and employees have gone crazy, pasting company information into these LLMs. And wow, they don't understand really that there's no delete key. And once you're in there, you're in there. What's your thoughts about AI with guardrails, and what's your data finding?
so right now, the one of the biggest challenge that companies are seeing or facing with AI, they don't know where to start. Um, and they heard some story. And today, when you look at the IT trend, the third element that is preventing companies to invest in AI is really the concern about data privacy and security. So the good news is company understand now that they have to be careful what they're doing with their data and when they're leveraging AI models, especially if they are public models, and you take some of your confidential data and put it and expose it to the market. Remember 2, 3 years ago doing roundtables with clients, especially on the IT trend, and we were having discussion about ChatGPT and how they seen that as being a threat. Well, go back, ChatGPT just came out. Well, almost everybody didn't see that as being a threat, even though people were maybe using internal confidential data. This year, we've done the same type of roundtables, and actually, at one of the roundtable we've done, there was probably 60, 70% of the participant that block ChatGPT on the business
Mhm.
side, just to make sure that there are no confidential data getting outside. But again, you want people to use AI, but you've got those concerns. Yeah, everybody perceives that it's costly to develop AI, but the second one that is coming up is really data privacy and confidential information. So it is a challenge for companies who wants to leverage, who needs to leverage, as those concerned, and don't know where to start. So
Mm,
the answer on that piece is really to get assistance from an expert who can really look at their need and establish the right strategy. And it's not to start big, but start small and then build on it. But make sure you cover any challenges you might
of
face.
course. So, Alain, one of the things as well that people, companies should be aware of is that employees go home and they have access to all sorts of LLMs at home. And the last time I checked, some people do take their work home or do work from remote works. So therefore, your data is available to your employees who can bypass regulations within your company, right, and still use AI. So there's a training component that's important to make employees understand that even though you may have access outside of the company, that the governance of not using this with company data is still important because humans they find ways around everything, right?
Yeah, and we spoke earlier about governance on the cybersecurity side, but I think we need the same governance on the AI side. Whether you deployed a model and you want to make sure, you need to validate what's coming out of it, but also what are the governance or the policies within the enterprise to use AI, and in which cases, and again, this is important to train employees on what are the risks and what's the good use of AI. And again, I mentioned I was in a conference earlier, and if you start looking on the environmental side, well, maybe using ChatGPT to look at what you've got in your fridge and what you will eat tonight.
It's okay.
It's okay, but there's better
Probably,
use.
but you're giving people information about you personally that they could then social engineer to really hit you with even more customized attacks, right? For example, if you like, I don't know, meat pie or something, right? You might get an ad from somebody saying, "Hey, I've got the fantastic meat pie," and because you love meat pie and they know what's in your fridge, who knows? You might click.
I could, but again, it's more to educate people on what you can do, what you should not do with AI,
Yeah.
and and, and again, make them aware of what are the risks that they could be facing themselves, but also risks that the company could be facing, and that's really through education. So we spoke about training on cybersecurity, but more and more we'll start seeing specific policies towards AI, but training of the people how to use it and why to use it.
For sure. So, Alan, what are some of the other things you found in your report? Let's go through a couple more.
Well, if we stay on AI, it's a big element. So what we found out is the top three reason why the company will want to use AI is first to increase productivity, which does make sense,
Yep.
automate manual tasks, but reduce operating costs. And this is something that customer are facing. And if you look at what's preventing them, it's the cost, but also what they're looking at, it's the ROI. And this is where company has to sit down. They need to find the right use case, understand what's the return they will have and what's the cost, and then move forward slowly and then build on it. The other things that we found in the IT trend is everything towards modernization. So we're hearing a lot about digital transformation. So companies are investing and they want to modernize. But again, the one thing that they want to make sure is that they're getting a return on their investment. What they're looking to modernize, and we touch a little bit on it, it's cyber security solution, which is, again, remember what I said, there's an evolution on the cyber attack. So company are aware, and this is the top investment in modernization is the cybersecurity solution. The other one that we didn't speak to, but it's really cloud infrastructure and services.
Mm-hmm.
So they want to modernize. We saw a movement, a lot of people jumping into the cloud, some of them coming back on-prem. One thing it's clear is companies are looking for an hybrid cloud, but there's about 27% of the companies that are looking to modernize their cloud infrastructure. And really close at 24% is really artificial intelligence. So when companies are looking at modernizing their solution or their environment, they're reconsidering AI in that topic.
So Alan, when you look at your report and your knowledge that you've got about, let's say, cybersecurity, for example, what do you worry about? What keeps you awake at night when we talk about cybersecurity and your customers and so on?
We touch based on it. It's the training. This is one. And what's keeping me awake at night is and I mention it, is I think a large organization, they have the funding to invest and have specific CISO in place and having a cybersecurity team and investing, because then they are aware. When you get into smaller companies, a little bit like IT, they perceive that it's an expense. They're too small to be hit by a cyber attack. There's no such thing as too small to be hit by a cyber attack. If there's a threat, if there's an opening, it's not if you will be attacked, but it's only when. And the trend I'm seeing, and even talking with clients, they always think it's the neighbor that will get it until it really hit one of their neighbor, and now they're starting and putting all these programs for investment. But again, maybe it's already too late. Maybe they're already in. And this is where we need the awareness, yes, for the end user, but awareness for the companies. And today, there's not enough awareness in clients, or not enough clients that taking that seriously. They always think it will be somebody else. And I'm not talking the large enterprises, but the SMB and the smaller organization.
Yeah, I always think of it as like health. When you're healthy, you don't think you're going to be sick, but if you don't get those regular checkups and so on, who knows what could happen, right? This world is complicated, and all these are moving parts that we refer to them as headwinds facing all these companies, right? And you've got to navigate them. What are some of the things when you think about your clients, especially today with this geopolitical situation? Do you find them even more so pausing investments or pushing investments in cyber further down the line? They're kicking the can down the road, or are they still investing heavily in cyber?
They're still investing heavily in cyber because again they have to stay current on it. One subject, and does it fall under cyber or not? It's data sovereignty. We're getting more and more question about data sovereignty. So we were talking about compliance, we were talking about risk. So based on the development in the last 5 months, 6 months, it's really something that we're getting more and more client to understand where the data reside, understanding the differences between the Patriot Act, the Cloud Act, which is two different things. So they need to understand, but also they need to evaluate what's the risk for the company. And today, I think with the shift we saw in the last few months, a lot of questions, but again, it doesn't mean that everything has to be brought back. But let's make sure what you're looking at, or what's your critical data, that it's at the right place.
So Alain, to wrap this up, if you've seen all your data, you've done your research, and by the way, for those who don't know, Leger is a very, very large organization who do solid research information. So this is a very serious report, and so the data is definitely solid, right? Um, Knowing all this information, Alain, if you had the power magic wand to make everybody do exactly what Alain wants, what would it be?
I would put it in three categories. First, every single enterprise should include the IT department, the IT team at the table when they're doing strategic planning for the company. So this is one.
Hmm.
I will keep on invest in cybersecurity. Cybersecurity threats are evolving. Your solution must be evolving. The third one is don't wait for AI. AI is there to stay, and it's not as expensive as people might say. Now, let's make sure you identify the right use case, start small, and then build on it. And people that did try AI in the last year, 2 years, and I was sitting in a discussion, and somebody said that this year is really the year where people will stop trying AI, but will find real use cases and move forward and build on it. And that's really what we saw in the previous year. People were playing with it, they were trying it without having specific ROI in mind. I would really invite clients to find that use case. There are specialized firm that we can help finding those use cases, building the model, and then move forward. And it's not true that it's expensive. It all depends what's the return. And this is really where we are. So IT department is fine. Cybersecurity, we spoke enough about it. AI is there to stay, is there to help clients to scale. So let's start using it. If you don't, you'll have a technology debt. And when you've got a technology debt, that means you're less competitive than your competitor that it did invest in those technology. So
Well,
those are
if this was a test, Alain, you would be scoring a perfect 100% there, my friend, because those are the three big things that you better be doing today. I would just add, make sure your CISO people are also planted firmly in that, because they're the people that's going to cause they're going to help you. You know, there's other things as well on, like a breach. What happens in a breach, and are they prepared for a breach, and all these things, and we can go on and on forever. You know, it's really exciting and interesting that you're doing this research, right? Because it really gives you some insights, some data points that you can understand what these customers are doing. Because you know, you talk to some people and they're doing it, you talk to others and they're not doing it, and you wonder why. And you, because everybody's different, right? Big companies, medium ones, small ones. So keep us posted how these are coming along. But to wrap this up, I wanted to give Novipro a bit of a plug here. What's the future? What do you guys are doing, and what's exciting about Novipro?
well, we're growing and we're well established at Quebec, Ontario, but we're looking at the complete Canadian market. Certainly AI, it's something that we'll keep on investing. And we mentioned earlier, we're providing managed services. It's more and more complicated for a company to get the right expertise and maintaining that expertise within a company. So that's the other growing area that we see that we are heavily investing to. And at the end, what we're trying to achieve is really to support our client in their successes. Because without client being successful, well, we're only a company with no clients. So we're focused on our client and we want to make sure they are successful, and then we can support them in their success.
Absolutely. And the website for them to learn more, but also maybe to get access to these reports. What is that website?
It's www.novipro.com. So Novipro.com. And you'll see the IT trend on it. Click on it. You can download it, and you can also download the 8 previous version if you're interested to see the trend.
All right. There you have it, folks. You know, it's really refreshing when you see organizations like Alain's, who's actually going more, above and beyond to really find out what their customers are thinking and doing. And it's important as well for your customers to know what the others are thinking and doing, because it allows them to formulate their strategies in the future. Fantastic. Thank you very much for bringing this to our attention, and keep us posted. And we look forward to the next one. All right.
Thank you, Julian. Have a great day.
Cheers, Alain.